perversion. It's sick. It's degenerate and sick.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here with Russell Dobular.
Hola!
Here with Russell Dobular and only Russell Dobular. Tonight, we had a big week of guests, but it is just the two of us tonight. Yeah, Matt Taibbi, Katie Halper, Glenn Greenwald all in a row. So, it was wonderful to have those guests. They were, all three of them were fantastic. But, sometimes it's nice to have the house to yourself for a night,
Yeah. Tonight, Satan is our co-pilot. But other than that, it's just us.
Other than that, it is just us two JOOs for the evening. And all of you, lots of you, a combined well over 700 to start the night. 572 in the YouTube chat. 251 over on Rumble. What a crowd to start the evening. Thank you all so much for being here. It is a pleasure to see you all. Please hit that like button wherever you're at. Please hit that subscribe button wherever you're at. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Speaking of Rumble, it is Sunday, and you know what that means. Time for our post-show Q&A exclusively on Rumble. So immediately following the conclusion of the program this evening. What's that?
With Satan.
Yeah, exactly. With special guest, the devil himself. Immediately following the conclusion of this program, there will be a 5-minute intermission. After which point, I should say, we will start our talkback over on Rumble. Paid subscribers across Patreon, Locals, and Substack will have call-in access to that Q&A. Everyone else is invited to come. If you're on Rumble now to watch the show, just stay where you are. The stream will be the exact same. If you're on YouTube, after the show ends, go to rumble.com/do-dissidents. I'll put the URL on the screen when the time comes. And join us for a little post-show hangout and talkback. We also have, as a perk, when you sign up, our patron exclusive supporter streams. Our 1st of December is coming up tomorrow. So there will be a patron exclusive live stream tomorrow at 2 p.m. So what we're doing, since we have a lot of Euro dissident supporters who we want to be able to take advantage of the live streams, we are splitting. We're doing one matinee and one evening patron live stream per month. So tomorrow's will be at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Those are exclusively on Rumble. So if you'd like to sign up, go to patreon.com/do-dissidents, do-dissidents.substack.com, or our locals. If you're on Rumble right now, just click that join button underneath the screen. That takes you to our locals, and you can sign up there and get access to the exclusive streams. But
all right, you ready? You ready? Take a breath. Take a breath.
Beautiful. Man, it's great to be able to hit those before segment 1. How do you like that?
Yeah, if the devil wasn't here before, he's coming.
He's coming. We have summoned him. Indeed. 683 strong now.
We have summoned our Dark Lord.
In the YouTube chat. Beautiful. So, folks, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We had some interviews this week. We did some segments this week, but we have a lot of news that we want to get to. And so we're going to jump right in here. We have never done a sports story in the history of this show. We have done no sports talk. Russell has subjected me to a lot of his Marvel movie talk and Disney talk, but we have not done a baseball story.
Tonight.
And he will be doing some more Disney talk tonight.
That's really a labor story.
Tonight, it's more of a labor-oriented Disney story, indeed. And this is a labor story of sorts as well. Yeah. This is an absolutely stunning development if you're a sports fan, even if you're not a sports fan. In fact, perhaps especially if you're not a sports fan. You might be thinking, what? $700 million for 10 years of playing baseball? Well, yeah. Shohei Ohtani, the most coveted free agent in baseball history, to sign $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is from the Athletic.
Baseball has been very, very good to me.
You talk about, I mean, you look at a paper like this. This is from the Athletic. This is a sports magazine, obviously. They really talk about this guy the way, like, the North Korean press would talk about Kim Jong-un. Like, they really, I mean, the glory that he carries in this article. Shohei Ohtani's singular pursuit of history, one man's quest to rewrite the baseball world's understanding of what is possible, reached another summit on Saturday when he agreed to the largest contract in the annals of major North American team sports, a 10-year, $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers, his agency CAA announced. He just better not come out for Gaza, you know, now that he's got this contract. He better keep his mouth shut about that. It's the only way that he could blow it at this point.
It's the only way he could lose, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ohtani announced his decision on Instagram. The deal ends years of feverish speculation about Ohtani's future. Ohtani, a 29-year-old two-way sensation, has captivated the industry since he left Japan.
Thing? What is that?
Yeah, I will explain. I knew you were going to go there.
He does a little little two-way for the fans. That's why they won.
Exactly.
Nobody does the two-way like he does. Whoa.
That's why he needed to go to a nice liberal city like Los Angeles.
They don't play that shit in Japan.
Well, he was playing
you take that two-way thing to America. They like that over there.
Actually, technically, he was still in L.A. because he's from the Los Angeles Angels. But the Los Angeles Angels were formerly called the California Angels and then later the Anaheim Angels. They're from Anaheim, which is like Orange County. That's a little stodgier, more conservative part of the greater LA metro area.
Well,
so now he's on the more liberal side where they like the two ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly. By two-way, that means he's done things that appeared impossible in the modern era, feats that harken back to Babe Ruth. So what they actually mean by two-way, all crude humor notwithstanding, is he is a great pitcher and a great hitter. And that's unheard of nowadays. That is something that does not happen anymore. Now, Major League Baseball, all the skill sets are so specialized that the Major League pitchers could barely hit when they had to hit. Of course, in the National League, they used to have pitchers hitting, and now I believe they switched to universal DH. That tells you how much I know. I haven't watched much baseball the past couple of years, and I didn't cost myself much pleasure because the Yankees were horrible last year by comparison to what they usually are.
I like that explanation.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He tops and he bottoms.
Yeah. As he traveled the country with the Los Angeles Angels this past summer, fans serenaded him with recruiting pitches. When he entered free agency, a dozen teams lined up, curious to see if they could meet his eye. Only one team could secure Ohtani's services. He will now be compensated for both his immense talent and unparalleled star power. See, they really talk about him like he's the new leader.
Yeah.
This guy could be the mayor.
It's like Michael Jordan shit.
Yeah. His contract eclipsed the $360 million record for free agents set last winter by the New York Yankee slugger Aaron Judge, and also surpassed the record-setting $426.5 million extension from Ohtani's former Angels teammate Mike Trout. So you see, this is not only a record contract, this is unheard of. I mean, this guy is basically $1 billion man now between this and all the endorsements that he's going to score. I mean, this is it's unbelievable. His achievement exceeded even those outside of baseball, topping the $450 million contract inked by Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Ohtani has outpaced even soccer star Lionel Messi's $674 million contract signed in 2017 when he was with FC Barcelona. Here's how his contract stacks up to other baseball stars, obviously blowing out the competition by almost double. His individual brilliance, like I said, this is like state press in like North Korea, like they're writing about Kim Jong-un. His individual brilliance was not enough to lift the Angels into the postseason. Oh, that's right. With the Dodgers, Ohtani will now have an opportunity to add collective hardware to his trophy case. The Dodgers have won the National League West in 10 out of the past 11 seasons, topped 100 victories in 5 of the past 6 full seasons, and won the World Series in 2020. Ohtani has never played a postseason game in his big league career. This is why baseball teams
choke.
What's that?
He's going to choke.
Choke. Yeah. Well,
that would be funny, right?
Well, this is why baseball teams don't build themselves around a single player, a single star. Baseball is not like football. It's not like basketball. Football, the quarterback controls the game. It's the same quarterback that goes out every single game. So if you sign a star quarterback, you can go from being a non-contender like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They sign Tom Brady as the quarterback, wins the Super Bowl. Boom. LeBron James in his prime, whatever team he went to became a contender for the finals that year because he's on the court, theoretically almost at least, every minute of every game. You can always get the ball to the best player in the game. With baseball, so much of the game depends on starting pitching, and the starting pitcher changes every 5 days. So the best starting pitcher in baseball only gets the ball every 5 days. Not only that, the best hitter in baseball is only up 1 out of every 9 times, right? So you can't just give the bat to the best hitter every single time. That's why baseball is much more of a team sport, which is why, it's one thing to give this kind of contract to a LeBron James or, Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers. In baseball, it's almost always the case that the team chemistry is the most important thing. Clutch hitting, pitching, defense. The Yankees, that dynasty team in the 90s, I was rooting for that team as a kid. They had a bunch of great players. Derek Jeter later became a marquee star player. At the time, he was a young rookie. They didn't have marquee players. The Houston Astros, this latest sort of dynastic team, if you will, not too many marquee stars on the team. Ken Griffey Jr., right? Wheaties box guy, never won a World Series. Barry Bonds, never won a World Series. Sammy Sosa, never won a World Series. Baseball is not that kind of sport, so that's what makes this very weird. And from a left-wing class perspective, I gotta say, man, like, growing up a baseball fan, it always kind of struck me a little weird that, hey, we're rooting for these guys who get paid this obscene amount of money. But, man, you look at that chart, the amount of money that they're doling out for players this day and age. And don't forget, this isn't the 90s where everybody had money, so nobody really gave a shit. Like, these are hard times for most people in this country. You got people sleeping under every bridge in Los Angeles, and you're pulling in a guy to fucking pitch a ball and hit a ball for $700 million over 10 years. $70 million a year. That amounts to $438,000 a game. Assuming he gets 4 at-bats a game, which is the average, it's $100,000 an at-bat. I mean, that is an unbelievable amount of money. This is like Fall of Rome shit. This kind of decadence, right? It is just, it's a slap in the face to the people. I'm sorry. Like, this offends me.
Well, yeah, it's there was a book. Who wrote that? Was that Todd Gitlin? Amused to Death. This book is very often considered prophetic today because it was written like pre-internet, but it really predicted a lot of this, where the society has so much wealth misapplied.
Right,
that
exactly. Right.
It just winds up being just all the money goes into the gladiatorial games, right? Bread and circuses, just keep them entertained. I mean, $700 million. You're getting into literally the GDP of some African countries.
Yeah. All circuses, no bread. I like that. Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Right. It's to have a society that's wealthy enough to piss it away on a baseball player that will not send people to college, give them health care or housing. I mean,
it's probably not even going to win you a World Series. I mean, you don't build a baseball team around one guy. $700 million for 10 years is insane.
It's like counter Moneyball.
Yeah,
it's the opposite of Moneyball.
See, I'm impressed because Russell's not a baseball fan, but he knows Moneyball. I don't know if you probably saw the movie. Moneyball was based on, what was the guy's name? Bob Bean, Brett Bean, Bill Bean, something like that?
Well, it made a lot of sense to me as a director who always worked non-union, because I felt like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. Yep. I figure out what people are really good at, and I build the entire production around focusing on that in each person.
Right. He built his team around guys who can get on base. That was his big thing. Who's this guy? Never heard of this guy. He only bats .240. Yeah, but look how many times he walks. That means he gets on base. The more we get on base, the more we score. The more we score, the more we win. Right. And he had good starting pitching, great starting pitching on that Oakland team. And then they got knocked out of the postseason, and everybody says, see, this is why he's an idiot. No. One other thing, not to shy. See, we could do a sports show if we wanted. Then we make real money.
You could do a sports
show. Baseball's a 162-game season. There's so much chance in baseball. They call it a game of inches. It's a game of millimeters, really, not a game of inches. The difference between hitting a home run and popping a ball up to second base is not the 200 feet on the field that the ball didn't travel. It's the third of an inch on the bat that you hit it just too low on the bat so that it pops up instead of goes straight. So over the course of 162 games, the best teams win the most games. In the postseason, in a 5-game series, the worst team can win 3 out of 5 against the best team. So the idea that they discredited that guy because his team got knocked out of the postseason, it's nonsense. Those Oakland A's teams were fantastic teams because they were built smart. They were built to win. When the Yankees got rid of Tino Martinez and brought in Jason Giambi, guess what? They didn't win a World Series with Jason Giambi. They went for the big star. Tino Martinez was a much more valuable player. He's a better clutch hitter, much better defense. Anyway, now I'm getting real sidetracked. But the point is, $700 million is offensive to the people, and it's stupid management from a baseball perspective.
All right, so because we never do sports, I never get to tell this Russ origin story. I've been getting a lot of mileage out of the kicked out of Hebrew school story. But to explain why I don't know about sports, okay, so I grew up a mile from Shea Stadium. So as you can imagine, if you know what that is, that was Mets country. I grew up in Flushing. Everybody was a Mets fan. Now, they created the Mets because when the Dodgers left, there was this huge portion of New York baseball fans who were never going to become Yankee fans. They had hated the Yankees for generations, so they had to give them a team. And in a lot of ways, the Mets wound up being the Dodgers, meaning they always lost to the Yankees. They became that,
right.
Inferiority complex younger brother. They inherited that karma from the Dodgers. So that's a kind of shitty gig, right? So as a little kid, I was actually a sports fan. I watched ice hockey. I watched baseball. I didn't really watch basketball. I watched football. I was into all of it. And one day, because the Mets always lost, and it wasn't just that they lost, it was the way they lost. They always choked in the clutch. And it was so frustrating. Like the Mets could be leading by 10 runs, and you could go pick up a slice of pizza and come back, and they lost the fucking game in the ninth inning. And you're just like, how does that happen?
Who needs this? Right. So
one day I was probably about 8. I was watching the Yankees, and they pulled that thing. I was watching the Mets, rather, and they pulled that. It looked like they should definitely win this game, and they lost. I literally remember that day. I was watching the TV, the old 70s style, little with the rabbit ears, and I was like, I have no control over this. I'm not going to watch this anymore.
You're not going to watch it. Right.
And that was it. I never took an interest in any sport again.
Makes sense. I mean, it's rational for sure. All right, we'll take some super chats. Now, folks, I admit part of the reason we did that segment, and I was telling Russell about this, I did that partly for market research because we've never done a baseball story before. Yeah, and revenge. And revenge for all the Marvel segments he's put me through. But we've never done a baseball segment before, and so I want to know from you guys. I want to do some market research. Did you like that segment or not? Thumbs up if you liked it. Thumbs down if you don't. Don't be afraid to give a thumbs down. Like I said, this is all market research. I want to know because we want to know if we should do more of these every once in a while. You know, obviously not every show, not even close to probably not even once a month. But as a story like that comes up, baseball was really my first love, and so I like talking about it. And so if you guys enjoyed it, we will program more. If you didn't, we won't. It's up to you. There you go. Pat Donahue, thanks for the €5. Good to see the piece on hate speech laws in Ireland. Yeah, we clipped that this morning from Mr. Greenwald. Police states worldwide, here we come. They're doing it abstractly, but we are awake to it. Patrick Donahue from Ireland.
You're right, Patrick. I mean, that's something we'll get into it with some of the segments we're doing later, like the college presidents. We really need to find a way to fight back because these donors are going to pressure these universities and other institutions with their money. We have to find ways to hit them in the same way. We have to figure out how you boycott things that are going to hurt a university. We have to figure out how to strike back so that when they're making these decisions, they don't only have to think of the donor class.
Exactly. Hobbs45, thanks for the $11. At this time of year, I like to imagine Henry Kissinger being greeted by thousands of disappeared souls who whisper their curtailed generation coincident with his many years of senescent infamy. Good one.
Very, very well put.
That was very well put. Yes, that was very
lovely.
eloquent.
Yeah.
You should submit some writing to our Substack.
You should.
With stuff like that. Mac Truck,
like
thanks
Yates.
for the $5 on Rumble. Jake flagged this for me. It was Billy Bean. Yes, that was the name of the owner in Moneyball. Important to remember, all MLB team owners are billionaires. Douchebag owners' idea of growing the game is corporate overseas instead of reinvesting profits toward revitalizing the sport within the U.S. Well, that is true. Like when the Yankees brought in Hideki Matsui, it brought them a huge overseas market because Japanese fans were obsessed with Hideki Matsui. Ichiro, same thing. So he will bring in revenue from Japan. That is a good point. And your point about them all being douchebags is an equally good point. Elizabeth Marshall, thanks for the $10. Solstice Guild, great chat with Glenn, Matt, and Katie. Well, thank you for the gelt. Thank you for the compliment.
Thank you.
Appreciate that
very
much. Tip jar is out, folks. Thank you very much for your donations.
All right. I just got to, since we sat through sports. Yeah, people are saying this is like the greatest Godzilla movie ever made. It was actually made by the Japanese. And,
yeah, wasn't it made by, what's the company that made the original Godzilla? Toho? Is that what it is?
Is that,
There's one company that has the Godzilla, the main Godzilla rights. They put them all out.
Supposedly, this is great, and a lot of people are saying, like, yeah, this is what Hollywood can't do anymore. They made this for $30 million. Supposedly, it looks really good. And everybody says, like, this is the apocalypse now of Godzilla movies. Like, this is just the absolute greatest.
I mean, I
Godzilla
love monster movies. I'm a Godzilla fan. You're not putting me through anything.
So actually, so why don't you go see that? We can review it.
Yeah, that might be fun. Yeah. That's a plan. All right, folks, we'll take some more super chats in a few minutes. Thank you very much for your donations. We talked to Matt Taibbi.
Somebody says it's Toho.
Yeah, Toho. Yeah. We talked to Matt Taibbi last week a little bit about the economy and the Democrats gaslighting. Matt Taibbi wrote a little piece about Paul Krugman trying to convince the American people that the economy is really great. Here's a piece that's kind of related. This is James Carville on the Bill Maher show. This was their overtime Q&A talk back when Carville got a question. Hey, how do we convince Americans that they're doing better economically than they are? Now, don't forget, James Carville, a political strategist for the Democratic Party. So if there's anybody who should know, he's the guy. Let's see. Surely he has some answer.
It's the economy, stupid, but voters seem to be responding to positive economic news. Voters don't seem to be responding to positive economic news in the polls. How do you explain this?
Well, you got 60% of the Republicans that believe the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Oh, that's not a good answer.
I'm just giving you fate polls.
That's the smartest thing Bill Maher said in 2 months.
I'm just saying half the country's stupid. And the way we're going to win those voters is by putting my decrepit old turtle-like ass out on TV to speak up for Democrats, telling everybody they're stupid.
They're stupid and they're rich. They just don't know it.
They just don't know how goddamn good they have it. Think they do, goddamn it.
You look with 5.6% growth. All right, I, by any record, now people don't feel it. And I think we should have made a change. You and I agree on that. And I don't know how much of it is that they can't see beyond the president. The cost of living has.
When he says we should have made a change, I think he means that the Democrats should have swapped Biden out, because he says you and I agree on that. Because Bill Maher said that Biden should step down earlier. So when he says, I think we should have made a change, you and I agree on that, but people can't see beyond the president, that means I think Carville is one of these Democratic insiders who was trying to talk some sense into Biden's inner circle. Hey, this guy can't do it.
I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. These guys,
especially given his answer here, it makes sense.
Well, these guys like Carville see themselves as these pragmatic Machiavellians.
Right.
So, yeah, one would think he would see the obvious that Biden is a losing proposition.
Yeah, indeed.
Has hurt people, but you just can't look at this economy and go out and say this is a bad economy. That's impossible.
But that's not really what you want to tell the voters.
Well, but I'm not running for office, Bill. I'm answering a question on a television show. If I wasn't answering the same
the reason why you're on a television show is because you're a known strategist. So we're asking for your strategy, and your strategy seems to be to tell the voters you don't know what you're talking about. Well, and I don't think that's a good way to get elected. And I'm not a strategist.
I would not say that.
So what would you say? You're on television right now. You're on TV. We're not in your living room here. They're asking
this is
for
just
your
between
opinion.
me,
As a strategist, you're on TV.
Yeah, this is between me, you, your audience, anybody who decides to clip this for YouTube or X. But
I wouldn't.
We're not going to tell the dumb ones.
Yeah, we're just talking here. I wouldn't say this to anybody who could hear it.
We're just jawboning.
We're just jawboning.
You just said it to me.
Okay. But he's not running for office. I know, but the sweatshirt.
People, here's what I think it is. People, the things that, like, you can cite the statistics, and yes, inflation is going down, it's going in the right direction. But the things that people buy every day,
the rate of inflation is going down. When they say inflation is going down, I mean that may be a technically correct term if the rate is going down. Right. But the rate of inflation is going down, but prices are still going up.
Right. They're not going to turn around and lower the prices. Right.
No, you can't fill a grocery bag for less than $80. It's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
country. Yeah. Bullets, eggs. Gas.
Gas is down.
Not here.
I'm just telling you, the price of gas.
Yes,
we produce more.
I'm telling you, the price of gas is only double what it was before COVID.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you feel rich, you dumb fucks?
Yeah, right.
Than we ever have in history. Anywhere. We pump more oil in Saudi Arabia. All right, just so you know that. But if you ask people, do you think that the Democrats and Biden is, oh yeah, of course he is, 100%. I can't, the fact that people believe something doesn't make it a fact. There's a big story in the Wall Street Journal today. The crime rate has dropped significantly. Try to argue with someone, but the crimes per 100,000, I think, was 738, and you're down to 362. Or
738 when you took office, which was in the middle of an apocalyptic lockdown. Yes, crime went up at that point. Like, it's just incredible how he has nothing. And like Bill Maher says, this is the Democratic strategist, right? This is the guy whose job it is to spin. But this is why I said in 2020, and, we're going to do a little bit of Bernie Sanders talk later in the show. For everything he turned out to be, that 2020 primary was really the last chance to do anything about the inevitable collapse of this country. And this is exactly why I called it back then. As soon as it became Biden-Trump, I said, country's over. It's finished. We would talk about the election and, family dinners and, people would get involved.
What is it about an election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump that would indicate that to you?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's over because all they can do is this. There is nothing more on offer from these people. All they can do now is ask the corporations not to charge so much money for their shit. That's what they did. I mean, that's what Biden said. This price gouging has to stop. Enough is enough. That's all you can do is ask them. And under capitalism, what incentive is there for them to heed any of your requests? Because that's all they are requests. None of these have any teeth. They can't under neoliberalism. And you made this point on the Jimmy Dore show in a different context, but I would argue it's even more relevant to this conversation. We were talking about Ukraine war lies, Ukraine war propaganda, and you said, the only people they can sell this to are people who have enough to the point where they are insulated from the consequences of bad political ideas. And the problem now is that there are fewer and fewer of those people as inflation goes up and up and up, and more people feel the squeeze of inflation, housing, gas, war, right? There's just fewer and fewer of those cushy shit libs that they can sell this to. And that's true on Ukraine, but it's probably doubly true on this example here.
Yeah, one of my closest friends, she has a very professional class job. So does her husband. They make a lot of money. They went to buy a house. And look, I mean, the house that they bought when I was coming up, that would have been a house of like a fireman would have bought that house.
Yep.
Like a cop would have bought that house. That was a fucking $1 million house. It's a $1 million house.
Yep.
So even people within their economic class, it's not easy for them to provide for themselves in the way a fireman used to be able to provide for his family. That's luxury now. That's you're doing very well if you could buy a house a fireman would have bought 20, 30 years ago. So yeah. And I mean, a lot of people, if you're not in that position, you're going to say, well, those are high quality problems. And they are high quality problems relative to the suffering that a lot of people are going through. But it makes even those people start to question the system.
Exactly.
Because they're not getting rewarded the way they were told they would be rewarded for living this kind of a life and working for these kinds of people.
Exactly. And that hurts the Democrats way more than it hurts Republicans, because Democrats have built their strategy these past few cycles around those comfortable virtue signaling, moderate conservatives even, but some of them liberals. Whereas Republicans have become a more blue-collar party in terms of the makeup of people who vote for them.
Right. So, yeah, and Carville, is a classic example of generals always fight the last war. That guy's in 1994. That guy, he hasn't said anything that was apropos of the moment since Clinton was president. He's just living in that moment. It's like nothing happened in the interim. He just wants to present that same hard-bitten, what would have passed as a, hard, practical political realities. Remember, James Carville and his ilk were considered this response to Reaganism, right? That they could beat the Republicans.
Right.
But what nobody really asked was at what cost? By becoming Republicans?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, did you beat them if you become them?
Right.
And, that's where he's coming from today. People just don't know reality. People just don't understand what's going on. A lot of people think Bill Clinton didn't rape nobody. I was in the room. It happened. It happened. I saw it happen.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on. Let's see. Did we have any more Rumble rants? Nope, not there. Beautiful.
Why isn't he canceled? Why isn't he canceled? See, this is why I can't deal with those with the SJWs. What about James Carville? Why is he allowed to go on TV without getting harassed by all of these feminists? Right, Mr. If you drag a dollar bill through a trailer park, all kinds of things. Well,
yeah, you'll find a Clinton accuser if you drag a $10 bill through a trailer park. Right. George Stephanopoulos, his partner in the Clinton war room, he hosts a Sunday show, right? Good Morning America. Is that the thing he hosts? Or the Sunday version of that, whatever the fuck it is? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or, of course, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton has been more credibly accused of rape than many, 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 many people who have been driven out of polite society.
Of course. Absolutely. Actually, Juanita Broderick retweeted my thing about that. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow.
We should have her on. I would love to talk to Juanita Broderick. I've been following that story since back then because that broke around the end of Clinton's presidency. It was around 99 that started getting
that came
attention.
Out right in the late 90s, right toward the end. All right. Franklin Worsham, thanks for the $4.99. So democracy means enabling genocide plus all the stuff happening lately. Yeah. What do we get with the other thing? Yeah, exactly. Good point. Biding 71, thanks for the 99 cents. Appreciate that. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. Given that cable television subscriptions are dying and regional sports networks are on the way out faster, paying an MLB player $700 million is not priority. Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm surprised, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely massive. Absolutely unprecedented. That's why I wanted to cover it. Scott Johnson, thanks for the $10. I hate sports, but you guys make everything interesting. Well, that's the ultimate compliment. Thank you. What do they say about a good actor? He could read the phone book, and I'd pay to see him. Right?
All right. Since somebody quoted it in the chat,
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yeah. All right, Russell, you are up.
Oh, okay. All right. So, okay. So, here's my Disney story, but it's really a labor story this time around. So, judge allows 9,000 women to sue Disney for pay disparity. Now, Disney was already being sued for pay disparity. This is, I believe it's the same case. They've just expanded it to include 9,000 women. I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Originally, it was 9 women suing.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
It's not good for Disney. Now, the reason this really fascinates me and stories like this about Disney in general is because in a lot of ways, Disney is the corporation of our times. It is all about signaling progressive values on the outside while you just scratch that surface a little bit and you can see that it's all a cover for doing the same kind of amoral, sociopathic shit that any other corporation does and has always done. So a judge on Friday certified a class action lawsuit that alleges that Disney paid 9,000 women less than their male counterparts. The suit is the largest ever certified under California's Equal Pay Act, which makes it illegal for workers to be paid less for substantially similar work based on their gender. Lori Andrus, the plaintiff's attorney, applauded the ruling outside the courtroom in downtown Los Angeles. Quote, Disney has been gaslighting these women for 4 years, she said. They love their jobs, they love the brand, but they want to be respected and treated the way they should be in the workplace. Disney expressed disappointment in a written statement. We're disappointed with the court's ruling as to the Equal Pay Act claims and are considering our options, a rodent-like company spokesman said. Judge Elihu M. Burrell rejected Disney's arguments that the case will be so sprawling as to be unmanageable. Disney's attorney, Felicia Davis, argued that the plaintiffs are seeking to compare salaries across thousands of job groups, which reflect the decentralized decisions of thousands of managers. Davis argued that just because two employees are in the same job family and level, that does not mean their work is substantially similar. She rattled off a long list of job titles: music producers, pastry chefs, nurses, architects, ride engineers, visual effects directors, security dog handlers, Star Wars social media managers, to argue that the class members were too diverse to merit certification. Quote, these are different segments, different business areas, and different locations, she said. They report to different managers. They are in completely different industries, which pay completely differently. Davis argued that Disney will have to put on a massively complex defense at trial in order to show that any disparities were the result of allowable factors such as education, training, and experience. Quote, I know it's going to be horrendous, I like this lawyer, Burrell said in a lightly mocking tone, challenging the argument that there is no efficient way to establish pay disparities across large groups. You're telling me Disney has no system of categorizing pay grade levels. So the trial is expected to be held sometime before October. Now, this is a perfect example of how Disney says, do as we say, not as we do, because we got into a little conversation about this before the segment. I'm going to screen share this. Don't worry, Keaton. It's not anything that's going to get the stream demonetized. Okay, so Disney has a long history of doing one thing in America and another thing overseas, and one thing to its workers and another thing in its messaging. So you might notice a certain difference between the two Little Mermaid posters. This is the most recent example of where Disney changed its poster for the Chinese market. So on the left, Halle Berry is very clearly African American. And on the right, they made her more blue and ambiguous. Now, it's hard to imagine that there was any reason for them to do that other than to obscure her race, especially given the history, such as if you take a look at this Star Wars poster, you might notice that on the right, the American version, you see John Boyega on the right side, and on the left, the China version, you do not see John Boyega, the African-American actor, most infamously the Black Panther, where the American poster, you see the Black Panther, and on the right, they put the mask on. So this is
Hold on, go back to that. It said Halle Berry in the article, but that's not Halle Berry didn't play the Little Mermaid.
I mean, what's her name again? Yeah, not.
No, but it actually says it in the article.
Wait. Yeah, it's
you
not
didn't just
Hal Bailey. Hal Bailey.
Oh, Hal Bailey.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
okay.
what
I misread.
Yeah, not
No,
right. That would be an interesting casting choice given her age at this point.
Because when I read it, I thought it said Halle Berry too. We're probably just programmed to think Halle Berry when we read a name like that.
Because it's Hal Bailey. It's almost the same name.
And there's a huge movie star named
But
Halle
thank
Berry.
you for the correction. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Now we won't get sued by Halle Berry's lawyers. And so they put the mask on the Black Panther. So that is pretty typical of Disney. You know, they'll say one thing, they'll do all this virtue signaling. Oh, yes, we here at Disney are fighting for a better world and to make a more diverse society, and we're leading by example with our films. So it's just such a shallow virtue signal. You know, they'll put out these movies with girl-bossed feminist characters beating up poor old Harrison Ford, who probably doesn't even know where the fuck he is at this point. But meanwhile, they are paying women differently from men. And if that does not sum up ESG capitalism, as I would call it, and how it works, I don't know what does. There's no company that emblemizes that better than Disney does.
Yeah, I knew a couple people who used to work at the Disney parks. It was a husband and wife team. They didn't talk about any pay disparity, but apparently, yeah, it's very tough. Like, even if you work at the parks, they say like they were not allowed to like build a career there. Like, they rotate people out who work at the parks.
Right.
So it's a very difficult, really, it's an impossible labor situation. It's a very difficult company to like grow within. You know how the old show business story. Well, I started working on the back lot and I worked my way up. They make it very, very difficult to impossible to actually do that. From the mailroom, right? Exactly. Yeah, it's not that kind of of shop.
I've heard this. I mean, if you come out of the theater community, you're going to know people who've worked for Disney, and almost always they have a negative experience.
Yeah,
I've heard this my entire career, that Disney is like the worst company to work for. They underpay their animators so grossly that a lot of people say the reason the special effects are becoming worse and worse in their movies is because they don't want to pay people enough to get good special effects. You have these animators coming out telling these horror stories about how they'll be given an impossible amount of work that has to be done in an impossible amount of time for a ridiculous amount of pay. And they do the best they can, but you can't really do well under those circumstances.
Yeah, indeed. All right, folks, so we are going to move on here, but we do want to take a quick pause to do what we always do, which is give a special shout out and thanks to our paid subscribers across Patreon, Substack, and Locals. Thank you, Jake. How about a round of applause for Jake in the booth this evening, helping us out? Patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can go to DoDissidents.substack.com as well and become a paid member there. You can also go to DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble right now, you have a great Rumble crowd in there, almost 600 of you guys in the Rumble chat right now. You can hit that join button right under the screen. That takes you to our Locals page. We've gotten quite a few Locals members signed up, which is amazing. We have had a lot of people over this past week congratulate us on the growth of the channel. If you notice now, we are knocking on the door of 25,000 YouTube subscribers, which is wonderful. We love that. We are proud of that, and we are very grateful for that. Anytime you see anybody who's like having any kind of success in media, anytime you hear a person like that complain, turn the show off, because for every person who, makes a living or is able to do this, even in a semi-professional manner, there are hundreds of people who are trying to break in. Russell and I did this show for 3 years as an audio podcast before really anybody knew who the hell we were. And we both come from theater. We've both been in entry-level showbiz positions in our past. And so, we have no right to complain about anything. And so I'm not complaining about anything. But what I am saying is that as much as the YouTube growth is exciting, the backbone of the show is still our patrons. They are still the backbone of the show, because we talked to Glenn Greenwald about big tech. We talked to Mac Taibbi about big tech. Big tech can turn a switch off on you on a whim at any moment. Yep. And so the YouTube growth is exciting, it's fun, and it's tempting to get really excited and think you're going somewhere because you've gotten a lot of YouTube, subscribers and stuff. And like I said, we're grateful for that. But we know that could go away at any moment. The thing that sustains us as a project are the people who you just saw scroll the screen right now, our patrons, our paid Substack members, and our Locals members. That's why we try our best to make it worthwhile to sign up. You get call-in access to the weekly Q&A shows. The next one is coming up in just about an hour and a half. You also get your name up on the show credits there, and you get access to 2 full shows per month. We do 2 shows exclusively for those who chip in and help support the show. So please, if you like what we do and you want to help us do more, consider becoming a member. That is the best way to safeguard the operation, to censor-proof the operation, to guarantee that we will keep going no matter what happens. Patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, DoDissidents.locals.com. A lot of you guys hit us up with $20 worth of super chats per show. Hit us up with $5 worth of super chats per show. Become a member for $15 a month. We'll send you a shirt, and you'll get to talk to us on the Q&As, and you'll get 2 bonus shows per month. So Patreon, Substack, and Locals, that's what it's all about. We thank everybody for signing up. And once we get to 500 paid members, we are adding a 4th weekly stream. I did a formal count this morning. Coming into this evening's show, we are at 471. We are getting very, very close. We could do it tonight.
Close.
We have 2,000 people watching between YouTube and Rumble right now. So we can hit it this evening. So please, if you can, and you like what we do, and you want to support what we do, patreon.com/DoDissidents. Thank you very much.
Also, Keaton promised his children that Nancy Pelosi brand ice cream. So
yeah, right.
Sign up. Yeah. Or the kids will be disappointed.
Yeah.
That $15 a pint ice cream. So, yes, interesting that you asked that. I just booked the Airbnb today. Yeah, so so I'm going out to LA to do Jimmy's show on the 2nd, but I'll be doing it like the 8th to either the 15th or the 17th, it looks like. And then I will be going to New Orleans until May. So I will definitely do some on-the-street reporting while I'm there. It should be really, really interesting to cover the news from there.
Yeah, and you're basically moving there for half the year. He has his tour guide license, so he's going to be able to work down there as a tour guide.
I'm going to be tour guiding. I just got somebody to sublet my apartment, so they'll be coming right when I leave. They're coming in January. I'm actually not going to... This is the modern world. I might not ever meet this person.
Right.
Like... We arranged it. She's not coming until I'm gone. I'm going to have a neighbor give her the keys. And yeah, I'll see her when I get back.
All right. John M. in Minnesota. Carville after Sanders crushed in the Democratic Nevada primary in 2020. The happiest person tonight is Vladimir Putin. Yes, I remember. I remember that line very well. I know it was really happy tonight, Vladimir Putin. James Carville forgot it's the economy, stupid. Yes, and where's Kill? How'd you outdumb Dave Rubin? Nearly impossible. Yeah, he made Dave Rubin the second dumbest guy on that panel. Indeed. You saw Dave Rubin try to get a joke in there, and it fell flat.
Yeah.
That guy. Sometimes I feel bad for that guy. Mostly I just laugh at him, though.
Can I say something? I went there last time I was there. If anyone ever goes to New Orleans, the World War II Museum is one of the greatest museums I've ever been to.
Oh, wow.
It's really good. It's really good. That's like the main national museum for the whole country for World War II.
Yeah, I know that's down there. All righty, folks. Let's move on here. So, some news out of the International Criminal Court and the United Nations. The ICC president meets with United Nations Secretary General, and they put out this press release on Wednesday, December 6th, 2023. The president of the International Criminal Court, Judge Piotr Hofmansky, I hope I got that right, met with Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, at the seat of the United Nations in New York. The meeting took place in the margins of the 22nd session of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute, the court's founding treaty. During the meeting, President Hofmansky conveyed to the Secretary General his deep sense of gratitude for the strong support and cooperation of the United Nations, which is particularly important as the court is facing pressures and attacks on account of its independent work in addressing the most serious crimes under international law. Secretary General Guterres expressed his strong support for the court as a fundamental tool of accountability and assured President Hofmansky that the cooperation of the United Nations will continue in line with the relationship agreement between the UN and the court and with full respect for the court's independence. The discussion also touched upon the importance of strengthening the capacity of national jurisdictions to investigate and adjudicate core international crimes in accordance with the principle of complementarity enshrined in the Rome Statute. No mention of Benjamin Netanyahu or Israel by name in that press release, but the lady doth protest too much, it seems, because Netanyahu, once he got word that the ICC may be investigating his ass, he put out a statement that was quite defiant. So let's hear from Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, they played the anthem first.
Here
and then
he
went into it. Yeah.
When the ICC investigates Israel for fake war crimes, this is pure anti-Semitism. The court established to prevent atrocities like the Nazi Holocaust against the Jewish people, is now targeting the one state of the Jewish people.
Wow, that's really ironic.
Wow.
The only thing more ironic than that would be the descendants of Holocaust victims perpetrating a Holocaust right now, which is what you're doing. That's the actual irony of what's going on. He's like, can you believe that? What the fuck does he say? I mean, it's just unbelievable, the balls on this guy.
Pure anti-Semitism.
What did he say?
The court established to prevent atrocities
right.
like the Nazi Holocaust against the Jewish people is now targeting the one state of the Jewish people.
As a New Yorker, I resent that insinuation. I believe that this is the one state of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
City. They created the United Nations to prevent another Holocaust. That's true. But not just prevent another Holocaust of the Jewish people, but to prevent another Holocaust and another world war. Right? Like he's saying, isn't it ironic that the Jewish state is now being investigated by the very agencies that were set up to protect Jewish people? Well, in that particular context, yes, the Jewish people suffered horribly in the 30s and 40s in Nazi Germany, and they wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. But those protections were supposed to extend to everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's
not
the point.
Just Jews.
Yeah, that's the point.
You didn't get a permanent get out of genocide free card because of the Holocaust.
Exactly.
First, it outrageously claims that when Jews live in our homeland, this is a war crime. Second,
that's what it claims. It claims that living in your homeland is a war crime. No, I think what they are getting at is that committing war crimes is a war crime. I think that's what they're talking about there. That the Jews living there is a war crime. Second,
democratic Israel defends itself against terrorists who murder our children, rocket our cities. We're committing another war crime. Yet the ICC refuses to investigate brutal dictatorships like Iran and Syria, who commit horrific atrocities almost daily. As Prime Minister of Israel, I assure you, we will fight this perversion of justice with all our might.
Well, I'm reassured.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is why I specifically yelled what I yelled at Rachel Maddow, because when she was doing her cute little Rachel Maddow thing, she goes, yes, and we have these dangerous foreign leaders. That's not a dangerous foreign leader. Netanyahu. Putin is the one we're supposed to worry about.
We will defend ourselves with all our might. I mean, he was doing an impression of a strongman dictator there.
Exactly.
That was like a bad community theater version. Yeah, of a dictator. Yeah.
He's doing a community theater El Duce.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's not a dangerous foreign leader. I mean, it's just amazing how these labels only apply to people we don't like. But if you step back for a second, that's a dangerous foreign leader in the middle of a genocide, a strongman leader, justifying genocide. And I mean, I said it kind of kidding, but really not. I mean, Zionism, you could almost boil it down to the belief that the Holocaust gives you a permanent get out of genocide free card. That's it. You can do anything you want to anyone else as long as you invoke what was done to you previously as a justification. And if anyone questions it, they're like the Nazis, right? They're like the Nazis who perpetrated this horrible crime against you, so much so that you can behave like Nazis. Now you can behave like Nazis. So you're justified. You're indemnified against criticism.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important, and this is why we highlight it when an organization like Jewish Voice for Peace, they shut down Grand Central Station and they hold up banners, never again for anyone. Never again for anyone. Not just never again for us and we can do this again to anyone. What's the point of that, right? It's never again for anyone. That obviously lost on Netanyahu and apparently lost on Joe Biden, Tony Blinken, Matthew Miller, because the fact that you can have this guy go out there and just so brazenly defy the ICC and the UN, the reason he does that is because he knows that we have his back. And he knows that the United States could tell all of these organizations to go get their fucking shine box if we are more interested in propping him up, which we are. This is the relationship between the United States and the Israeli state. This is why RFK said there are aircraft carrier right? That's a sick, evil thing to say, but it's a very accurate way of thinking about it, right? They are a launching pad for our imperial projects in that region. Right. They are our military presence in that region. They are our proxy, which means they can do whatever we would allow ourselves to do over there. And we would allow ourselves to do anything. We're not going to let the fucking ICC dick us around. We're not members of the ICC because we commit a lot of war crimes. That's why we can't join the ICC, right? And, the UN, historically, pretty useless organization, especially when we don't like what they're doing. And that leads into our next segment. We'll get to that in just a minute. But anything else to add?
I was watching a commentator. It was really a video essay the other day that was addressing the not the male fascination with the Roman Empire, but the question of, is America the Roman Empire, and this kind of fascination with making that comparison that historians have and commentators have. And he said he boiled it down pretty well. Like he kind of said, yeah, there are similarities, but there are differences. But one really good point that he made was, very much like Rome at the end, we're using war because we have nothing left. And we're using that to try to extend our hegemony into the future because it's the only way that we have. We've lost all moral authority. We've lost cultural authority. I mean, speaking of, if we do Godzilla -1, there's actually an interesting cultural angle there to get into because Japanese movies are starting to occupy the space that a lot of American entertainment used to, not only in the American market, but in the international market. A lot of people manga is much more popular than American superhero comic books now, even among American youth. Nobody's really reading those. Like Japanese culture is becoming predominant. So we've thought of Hollywood and our culture as one of our most valuable exports in terms of, everybody wanting blue jeans, and it was a very powerful soft power export. We're even losing that. When this freak show of the Western world we call a country is not more entertaining than anybody else's entertainment, at that point, you really have nothing left but war. What else do we have to offer? And that's what it is. They're trying to use war. That's why they want to go after Russia. They're trying to use it to establish American hegemony for another few decades. That's what everything you see them doing is all about. So it's what the backing of Ukraine is about. It's what the backing of Israel is about. The common denominator is it's the only way they can think of at this point to extend American hegemony because we're not going to do it with cultural and economic dominance anymore.
Exactly. And that's what makes us especially dangerous in this moment, as this Biden
cornered bully
has proven. Because I think, this team around Biden, I wouldn't even say Biden himself. I don't think Biden's thinking about it much of anything at all. But these Jake Sullivans, these Anthony Blinkens, these Matthew Millers, they are very conscious of this decline. And so we're like a flailing animal, in our dying days with nothing to do but lash out. We cannot maintain legitimacy in any sort of productive way. We can only do it by lashing out violently at the world. And I think the team of psychopaths around Biden understand this very well. They are cogs in this machine. They have been for a long time. They know how it works. They know how it will ultimately stop working. And they know what they have to do to at least try to get a few more decades out of it. I think Trump is not conscious of that at all. Trump doesn't go in there with that understanding. And so he doesn't do the things that would be necessary to try and squeeze a little more juice out of this, drying up, pomegranate that is the United States. He doesn't know how to do that. He just said, we're going to make America great. We're going to close the borders. We're going to do this and that. It's like he's living in a much smaller world that is really disconnected from this web of interests that these Tony Blinken types are much more conscious of. And that's why they hated him so much. That's really why he was this emergency, because they needed him out of their way. They needed the Ukraine war, right? They need this now. They need a war with Iran. And Trump just wasn't going to give it to him because he wasn't aware of why the United States wanted it in the first place.
He sees
just this big thing in the way of what they wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I've always said, I mean, he sees war as wasteful. You've always said Trump is analog. He's not digital. Yeah. Why are we spending this money?
Right.
Why are we putting our troops there? Why don't we just have mud wrestling here? That's it. Keep the people entertained, and that's all. That's all they need. You know, a few Miss Universe
fuck, make money, enjoy your life. Yeah. That's it. Right.
That's it. And you're right. That kind of, broad Machiavellian vision. One gets the sense if he did understand it, he would shrink from it in horror.
Yeah, and I think at times he did shrink from it in horror.
I think he did too. That's a very controversial opinion. I have it back up there. It's Bob. Right. This one. All right. So Bob Woodward wrote this while Trump was still president, State of Denial. And he said something in it about Trump that always stayed with me. And look, Bob Woodward is a lib, but he's an old school reporter. I trust him more than any other lib reporter out there because I think he feels a need to show fidelity to the facts that the next generation of reporters just does not, even though he may have lib politics. He plays it straight. And he describes Trump having to do the phone calls to families who lost soldiers. I'm not going to use the phrase Gold Star families. I find that really fucking creepy, dystopian, and Orwellian. And he describes Trump being very disturbed by it. And that has always been a key for me in psychoanalyzing Trump. Look, it's one thing to fuck a guy who did contracting on your casino. It's one thing to fuck people who sign up to your fake university. It's another thing to send people to their death.
Right.
And to have to call their families and talk to them.
Yeah.
The idea that Trump is just this inhuman monster, in a lot of respects, because he didn't come from that world, he was not prepared for the level of evil required of the leader of the United States of America. It was very disturbing to him based on the way Woodward described it.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought, right, in 2016 when it became apparent that he was going to win, we're like, man, so this fucking casino clown showbiz doofus, this guy's going to be deciding who lives and dies? That seems way above his pay grade. Well, he apparently felt similarly. He felt like, damn, I really didn't think I was going to have to do this. I thought I'd run for president enough to the point where NBC would give me a better offer on my reality show, and that would be that. Now I got to do this.
Well, yeah. and I think that's part of his reticence about war, because he's not inculcated to that horror in the way that people who have striven to be the president their whole lives are. By the time you get to the point normally that you would be president, they already got to you. Like, if you weren't the kind of scumbag who could do that before, you are by the time you get there. He was such a fluke. He was so much of an outsider. He just wasn't trained to that reality, the horror of being the president of the United States.
Exactly. 007 Angelo, thanks for the $2. Russell is dropping wisdom and great impressions tonight.
Thank you. You like my Mickey? That was the only one I did, right, Mickey?
Well, you did Mickey.
And Carville.
Your Carville. Yeah, your Carville's good. He's practicing. Well, he's going to be living in New Orleans.
I'm going to be down there,
yeah. He's got to work on the accent. Thank you, Lars and Rune, for the 149. Appreciate that very much. Saw AF2 at my airport in South Carolina last week. Not sure why she was there. Didn't see anything in the news. Who's AF2? Saw AF2 at my airport in South Carolina. Not sure why she was there. Didn't see anything in the news. I don't know who. I'm not sure who that is. I'm not sure who you were referring
to.
Anybody? Did you run out of characters? Anybody in the chat? Yes. AF2. We need an ID on AF2.
AF2.
That's the mystery.
AF2, your lights are on.
Yes.
In the parking lot.
Exactly. Let's see. Don't see any answers in the chat so far. Let's go to a Rumble rant right here. We have one from Laugh.
Air Force 2. Air Force 2.
Oh, Air Force 2. Okay, so that would have been Kamala Harris. Yeah, I'm not sure either. Laugh 66.
We have the smartest, if most depraved audience.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wouldn't have thought that. Yeah. Nowhere near that.
Our people are so fucking smart.
Nowhere near that. Good catch, everybody. Laugh for $5 on Rumble. Katie Halper's interview with Juanita Broderick, where Juanita details the time she was raped by Clinton, is unforgettable. Listen on SoundCloud. Did Katie Halper interview Juanita Broderick too? I think she did, actually. That's right.
I did not know
that would have been way back when she just had an audio show. I remember she just had an audio podcast for a while before she was on YouTube, but that's interesting. I first heard about her from Christopher Hitchens on a Bill Maher show, because he interviewed a lot of women who made accusations against Bill, and he said he came away from those interviews. There was no doubt in his mind that they were all being honest. And so, she quote tweeted a tweet of mine that we're going to talk about tomorrow on Rumble, since that gets a little spicy. So join at Patreon and join us at 2 o'clock tomorrow. That's the cool thing about those Patreon shows. They're uncensored because they're over on Rumble, so we could take a few chances that we can't take here in East Berlin.
It is so much looser.
Oh, it's so much more fun. And it's funnier. It's funnier because we can, all the sick jokes that we think of now that we can't say, we get to say them on Rumble. So, yes, those are a lot of fun. So sign up if you can, please. All right. So we just did a segment about the ICC meeting with the United Nations, and the UN in the news this week saying Gaza near full-blown collapse as U.S. vetoes ceasefire call. Yes, you read that right. The United States vetoes a ceasefire resolution at the UN. The UN is at a breaking point in Gaza, its most senior official has warned, as his colleagues describe the untenable humanitarian catastrophe in the territory, with 700 people sharing a single toilet and people burning plastic to keep warm. Think about that. Burning plastic. You can die from inhaling fumes of burnt plastic. Very, very dangerous to burn plastic. One official said UN agencies were barely operational and staff were bringing their children to work so they know they are safe or can die together. Another said Gaza society was on the brink of full-blown collapse with civil order breaking down. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, told a meeting of the Security Council in New York, "We are at a breaking point. There is a high risk of total collapse of the humanitarian system. People were desperate, fearful, and angry and were looking into the abyss," he said, urging the UN to back a Security Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire. Guterres said the eyes of the world and the eyes of history are watching. But late on Friday afternoon, the United States vetoed the resolution calling for a ceasefire. 13 countries on the 15-member council supported the motion, with the UK abstaining. We have video. This is from the Guardian as well. They edited this. Obviously, this is UN footage, but here we go. Here's a little taste of how things went down.
Contra.
So in contra means, are you against the ceasefire? That's the US. Only guy raising his hand from the United States.
Abstenciones.
Absence mean basically I vote present. The UK raises his hand there. One vote.
The people of Gaza are looking into the abyss. The international community must do everything possible to end their ordeal. The eyes of the world and the eyes of history are watching.
We do not support calls for an immediate ceasefire. This would only plant the seeds for the next war, because Hamas has no desire to see a durable peace.
This war is part of the assault to end the Palestinian people as a nation and to destroy the question of Palestine. If you do not share this objective, you must stand against the war.
Following the atrocities of October 7th, Israel committed itself to the elimination of Hamas's capabilities for the sole reason of ensuring that such horrors could never be repeated again. And if Hamas is not destroyed, such horrors will be repeated.
We are all aware that Israel began its military operations in response to the brutal terror attacks unleashed by Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups on 7 October. I unreservedly condemn those attacks, and I'm appalled by the reports of sexual violence. There is no possible justification for deliberately killing some 100,000 1,200 people. At the same time, the brutality perpetrated by Hamas can never justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. And while indiscriminate rocket fire by Hamas into Israel and the use of civilians as human shields are in contravention with the laws of war, such conduct does not absolve Israel on its own violations.
Okay, so there's some video from the UN. I'll read. We have a couple more cards here. After that vote, which we just saw, the United Arab Emirates, Deputy Ambassador Mohammed Abu Shahab warned that the Security Council is growing isolated and appears untethered from its mandate to ensure international peace and security. You think so? You think so? Untethered from their mandate. Be nice if they could do something soon. Philippe Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Works Agency, the main UN agency in Gaza, said it was the darkest hour in the organization's history. In a letter to the President of the UN General Assembly, Dennis Francis, Lazzarini said UNRWA is, as of today, still operational in Gaza, though just barely. Our staff are still operating health centers, managing shelters, and supporting traumatized people, some carrying their dead children. We are still distributing food, even though the corridors and courtyards of our premises are too crowded to walk through. Our staff take their children to work so they know they are safe and can die together. More than 130 UNRWA employees had been killed in the past 2 months of war. 70% of staff were displaced and lacking food, water, and adequate shelter, he said. We are hanging on by our fingertips. If UNRWA collapses, humanitarian assistance in Gaza will also collapse. And your country, our country, raises their hands to veto a ceasefire resolution. They're party to all of this testimony, all of this talk. They hear all of this happening. They see all this happening. They know all of this happening, and they can still put their hand up. Nope, no ceasefire. No ceasefire. That's your country. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and this is why so many countries that are in opposition to the United States always point out this framing that the U.S. gives that the rest of the world is full of evil antagonists, and the U.S. is on the side of the angels.
Yeah, and they're barbaric. They're uncivilized.
They're uncivilized. That is so transparently false. We are supporting a genocide, and we are the only ones on the UN Security Council that won't even call for a ceasefire. It's just, how on earth do Americans maintain this fiction that we are the good guys on the world stage? And all cultures have a variation of that idea. I don't know if there's ever been a country with such a, Jimmy Stewart-esque myth about itself. The British, I think, saw themselves as a little more sophisticated, right? It's a more realpolitik, the way they were working in the world. Like, yes, they saw themselves as superior, but I don't think in such a almost cartoonish way as the United States. Where just these good, clean-cut Americans bringing good American values to the rest of the world. And you look at what's happening in Gaza and our just unwavering support for it, and just the last in this. Ukraine did some work, but this, I think, is tearing up the last shreds of American claims to moral authority on the world stage. And certainly Israel will never recover from this, I believe. I mean, if the Arab countries don't wind up attacking them and creating a wider war, at the very least, you are going to see non-U.S. aligned countries sanction Israel. I can't imagine that they don't.
Yeah. No, I think that's all true and well said. Eric Rousseau, thanks for the $2. We're gonna get a bit of voodoo now. Yes, that's true. Some voodoo.
In fact, Marie Laveau's, baby.
As Jake said, Russell, we have passed 666 likes in the YouTube chat, so let's give the people what they want.
Getting me a mojo hand down there.
There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. And we might hit 666 in the Rumble chat tonight, too. We're at 616 as of 8:15. How are we doing right now on that, Jake? Let us know if we passed that milestone as well. Thank you all for being here wherever you are. 1633 in YouTube and a little over 600 on Rumble. So well over 2,000 of you lovely people watching us tonight. Thank you all very much for being here with us. Please hit that like button wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Hit that follow button, please, over on Rumble. Very important. And reminder for those who arrive late, post-show Q&A tonight on Rumble after the conclusion of this program. McDougal, done with BB, MAGA, and the left. There you go. Well, welcome,
All
McDougal.
Right.
Thank you. Nelson Carrero.
No arguments there.
Thanks for the $2 super sticker. Appreciate that. And Russell, let's get our cowbell out for Basil or Basil. I think it's Basil when it's a name, right? Usually Basil Beskov. Thanks for the $50. Kennedy's assassination 60 years ago was a public execution of democracy in big capital letters. I agree with you, Basil. And thank you for your generosity.
Thank you.
That is very kind of you. Okay. Beautiful. We got a Rumble rant. We'll read that a little later. And we got another super chat, which we'll read in a few moments as well. But let's move on along here. This is a big story. We're going to go back in time, about a week, a few days? I don't know. This is testimony you may have seen before. This is from UPenn President, or now former President, ex-President, Liz Magill. Here she is in Congress answering questions about the speech allowances that she and her board or her team will make on campus.
Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. Magill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or
becomes
no?
if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide?
No.
The speech is not harassment. This is unacceptable, Ms. Magill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity
You should really
for the
take
world
a look
to
at
see.
At your State Department alumni and his behavior towards an innocent Egyptian hot dog vendor in New York for an example of what she's talking about.
Right. Exactly. Targeted harassment. Exactly. Good point. What's his name? Stuart Seldowitz, right?
Seldowitz, yes.
It's a hard name to remember off the top of your head.
Italian guy.
Yeah.
Your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard.
Now, look, we had Mr. Glenn Greenwald on the show on Friday, and we spoke a little bit about this. What he said, his take on this, is exactly mine, and it was hers, which is that political expression itself is not harassment. If you target that at an individual, if you bully a Jewish student, right, in that way, then that is harassment. So that was the point she was trying to make. She was trying to make a subtle point, and Congress is not the forum to do that. She must not have taken too many political science courses there at her own university, because attempting that kind of subtlety is a bad decision, and she paid a very dear price for it. Obviously, she has stepped down as president today, but between today and that day, she put out a little apology video attempting to clarify her remarks.
There was a moment during yesterday's congressional hearing on anti-Semitism when I was asked if a call for the genocide of Jewish people on our campus would violate our policies. In that moment, I was focused on our university's longstanding policies aligned with the U.S. Constitution, which say that speech alone is not punishable. I was not focused on, but I should have been, the irrefutable fact that a call for genocide of Jewish people is a call for some of the most terrible violence human beings can perpetrate.
Please let me keep my tenure. Please let me keep my tenure.
I want to be clear. A call for genocide of Jewish people is threatening, deeply so. It is intentionally meant to terrify
One might
people
say
who
it's
have been
100 million
pogroms.
times worse
Right, yeah.
than the call for genocide of Palestinians.
And hatred for centuries, and were the victims of mass genocide in the Holocaust. In my view, it would be harassment or intimidation. For decades, under multiple Penn presidents and consistent with most universities, Penn's policies have been guided by the Constitution and the law. In today's world, where we are seeing signs of hate proliferating across our campus and our world in a way not seen in years, these policies need to be clarified and evaluated. Penn must initiate a serious and careful look at our policies, and Provost Jackson and I will immediately convene a process to do so. As president, I'm committed to a safe, secure, and supportive environment so all members of our community can thrive. We can and we will get this right. Thank you.
And a couple days later, Penn president, board chair resign amid backlash to remarks on anti-Semitism. Come on. Who let that guy in here? Who let that guy in here?
Woo!
Woo! Woo! University of Pennsylvania President Liz Magill, reports the Washington Post, has resigned after intense criticism from donors, alumni, and others of her testimony at a congressional hearing about anti-Semitism on college campuses. Scott L. Bach, chair of Penn's Board of Trustees, said in a note to the campus community that Magill will stay in the role until an interim president is appointed. After that, she will remain a tenured faculty member at the university's law school. The note was sent shortly before Bach announced that he would step down as board chair. In a separate note, he wrote, former President Liz Magill last week made a very unfortunate misstep consistent with that of two peer university leaders sitting alongside her after 5 hours of aggressive questioning before a congressional committee. Following that, it became clear that her position was no longer tenable, and she and I concurrently decided that it was time for her to exit. The world should know that Liz Magill is a very good person and a talented leader who is beloved by her team. She is not the slightest bit anti-Semitic, but we have to pretend that she is, or our donors will stop funding the next swimming pool or whatever the fuck we want to build to lure the kids in for $100,000 a year. Working with her was one of the great pleasures of my life. The moves came a day before Penn's Board of Trustees was set to meet amid the growing leadership crisis at the Ivy League school in Philadelphia. It has been my privilege to serve as president of this remarkable institution, Magill said in the note to campus. It has been an honor to work with our faculty, students, staff, alumni, and community members to advance Penn's vital missions. Now, look, I am not going to get lured into a debate as to what kind of speech should be allowed on their stupid fucking college campus, whether it's Penn or Harvard or Columbia or anything like that. If you want to say that calls for genocide constitute harassment and are therefore cancelable offenses, that is your right to do with your campus what you want. However, given the fact that, according to Israel themselves, civilians make up 61% of Gaza deaths from airstrikes, why isn't support for Israel considered a call for genocide, since Israel is actually committing genocide? There's a lot less interpretation necessary when someone says, we stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. If that sounds familiar, that's what Chuck Schumer was chanting at the Israel March in Washington, D.C. So if you want to interpret from the river to the sea as a call for genocide, even though it is not. You want to interpret certain words that I'm not sure we're allowed to say here in East Berlin, so I won't, as genocide. That's up to you. But there's no room for interpretation when someone says at this moment they support Israel. According to Israel, more than half of Gaza deaths are civilians. That's Israel's number, which means you know it's a bullshit number. You know the actual number's got to be a lot higher than that. But according to Israel themselves, of the 16,000 dead, what's 60% of 16,000? What, 9,000? 9,000 civilians killed in 8 weeks. That's 1,000 innocent people a week murdered by the Israeli state. That's genocide. So if it's cancelable to support genocide, then there's no interpretation necessary when someone says they back Israel. So I want to see a mass wave of resignation letters from talent agencies in Hollywood, from Wall Street boards, from prominent media figures, right? Let's hear them. Let's see them. If this is the rule, let it be the rule. It's your college. You make the rules. Fuck it. I don't care. Okay? But let's have some equal enforcement. Exhibit B. What does this look like to you? This is Ian Bremmer. Tweets out, unclear what Israel is trying to accomplish planting flags in Gaza. Really? Unclear? Looks like they are forcing people to flee an area that they are flattening and claiming for themselves. That looks to me like genocide. Look at what you're seeing. You're seeing ruin as far as the eye can see. A crater in the middle of a city with bombed out buildings in back of it as far as the eye can see into the sunset, and the Israeli flag planted in an area that they say they're not interested in occupying. What is that? That's called genocide. And people who support Israel now support genocide. So let's cancel them. Let's cancel them and call it even.
Yeah, and we've seen videos. I don't think we ever played it on the show, but I know we shared this back and forth of Israeli soldiers. Apocalypse Now looms large over this episode. Sometimes that happens. Certain themes come up. If you remember, one of the most famous scenes in that movie was them surfing on the beach in the middle of the bombardments and the war. There's been footage of the IDF forces having a great time on the beach in Gaza, laughing it up. This is the world's most moral army. Even if you take them at their word that they would never celebrate the deaths of civilians and they're doing everything they can to avoid the deaths of civilians, well, that footage demonstrates otherwise. They look like they're having a grand old fucking time. They don't look like people who are particularly disturbed by having murdered all of these civilians. You don't go have a little Annette Funicello beach party,
right?
If you're really disturbed about murdering the civilian population of Gaza. In terms of the speech questions, it's interesting that this happened at UPenn, because no campus has been more quote unquote woke than UPenn and more prepared to enforce speech codes. This is, of course, the university that threatened the women on the swim team if they spoke out about having to share the locker room with Leah Thomas, the fully intact biological male that they had put onto the swim team. Now, the Zionists are basically making a case to expand that handling of speech to Jews. The core of their argument is, well, why do you do this for every other marginalized group and not for us? We want you to ban speech the same way you ban speech on the swim team. We want that to apply to Jews. We want that to apply to Zionism. It's clearly anti-Semitic that you do this for these other groups and not for us, which really, when you boil it down, is, I mean, they're not wrong that this really doesn't come down to a great respect for freedom of speech. Certainly, UPenn has not demonstrated that respect. It is a question of which groups fit their worldview. And the Palestinians and their cause fit a worldview built around decolonization much better than the settler colonialist project of the Zionists does. The problem is that the Zionists give them a lot of fucking money. There are no Palestinians that can turn around and pull $100 million out of UPenn. That's what I was referencing before during her speech. A fund that donated $100 million in shares was threatening to take it back.
Right.
And they made her resign right after that because she ain't worth $100 million.
No.
That having been said, I was honestly surprised that they stood on core freedom of speech principles in this testimony. I was really surprised that they didn't just say, yes, of course, that's eliminationist language. So it's very strange because all of these universities have been perfectly happy to throw people out if they misgender somebody or if they don't subscribe to critical race theory. They've been, and we've seen hypocrites like the Weinsteins all of a sudden turn around and applaud this, who have been decrying that speech. And of course, the real battle here for civil libertarians is no, the answer isn't to extend those speech codes to more groups. It's to stop doing that so that when something like this comes up, they can't throw in your face, well, you did it for them. Why won't you do it for us?
Exactly. All right. Let's go to Eric Housseau for $2. Thank you. Air Force 2, The Wrath of Calm. I like that. It's funny. Good one. And McDougal says, elite college presidents just now pretending to be these champions of free speech is laughable. Spent the last 10 years banning us. Bye, Felicia. Yeah, no, look, no tears shed for her. That's a good. Oops, sorry, Eric, if you're there. I almost just put you in timeout, but I don't think I did. All right, beautiful. It's very hard to hit the wrong button back here.
They should really have a "Are you sure?"
Yeah, are you sure? Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would think so. You would think they would.
I did that to Tusker once.
Yeah, that's right. You banned Tusker once by accident. All right, let's go to Doc Durkin. Thanks for $5. For starters, we can boycott Gaza genocide supporting businesses, Starbucks, McDonald's, and Coca-Cola. We had a Starbucks story that we were going to do tonight, but we just had too much, so we're going to do that on Wednesday because the Starbucks boycott is working. They've lost a lot of value, and
they've lost $11 billion in market value.
Exactly, and we will cover that more thoroughly on Wednesday for sure. It was on the docket for tonight. But one of the reasons we bounced it was because of our next segment. We weren't going to do this segment, folks, because Bernie Sanders has already exposed himself as a giant hypocrite when it comes to this Gaza issue. But 2 tweets started circulating on the same day, and he fired off this tweet from his account literally 15 minutes before we went on the air, and that's why we added this in at the last minute. So here's a video tweeted out by Senator Bernie Sanders from this morning's appearance on Face the Nation.
Is trying to do is trying to make clear to Netanyahu and his right-wing extreme government is, yes, you can go to war against Hamas, but you cannot go to war against the Palestinian people.
Really? And Biden is trying to make that clear. How? How exactly is he trying to make that clear? That's always the goal with Bernie. We have to make clear to the billionaires they can't have it all. We have to make clear to the fossil fuel companies that they can't pollute the planet. We have to make clear to the pharmaceutical industry that they cannot rip people off for, the drugs that they need. It's all about making clear to people where he stands. Now, in most cases, Bernie represents causes championed by ordinary people against wealthy institutions, and so making them clear really carries no weight. In this case, Joe Biden can make as clear as possible that he doesn't support Israel by denouncing Israel and cutting off funding for Israel. Boom. That's it. So this whole idea, we have to make it clear to him. The president's trying to make it clear to him. Absolute bullshit. Absolute, utter bullshit.
Most people don't know this, but my good friend Joe Biden is one of the world's great charade players. And he's been making a lot of hand gestures toward Netanyahu that are very clear to him that he strongly disapproves. Next, he's going to write a strongly worded letter. I've spoken to him about it, and he's going to mail it. Should get there next week.
Cause the horrific damage to human life that we are seeing right now. Margaret, there have been 16,000 people killed so far, Palestinians, 2/3 of whom are women and children. You're talking about 1.9 million people displaced, going around without any water, food, without any medical supplies. It is a humanitarian disaster, And the United States has got to put all of the pressure that it can to tell Netanyahu to stop this disastrous military approach.
All the pressure, join the movement. Yeah, some movement you got there.
This motherfucker.
Join the
this
movement.
fucking motherfucker, man. That was one of the things that pissed me off the most when his campaign wrapped up in 2020. I get an email from this motherfucker.
Email, right?
I get a fucking fundraising email. I was like, we've got to continue our revolution. Yeah.
Go ahead. Just say the word motherfucker 5 more times. That'll make it even easier to monetize this clip. Go ahead. Yeah. Just kidding. I want to see here the last sentence that he says here. What's the last thing this idiot says here?
The United States has got to put all of the pressure that it can.
All the pressure that it can.
To stop
we can apply all the pressure necessary and then 10 times that. The idea that we are powerless to stop it, we just have to keep communicating to Netanyahu that we don't approve of what he's doing. Schmuck. We cut off the funding. This stops tomorrow.
Right.
What are you talking about? We have to apply pressure. What the fuck are you talking about? It's such an insult.
Look, this is kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Hey, all of these donors that want to pull money out of universities for not crushing pro-Palestine protests, go pay for Israel.
Right.
Go pay for Israel. You guys can give that money to Israel. We're not doing it anymore. You see how fast this war ends.
Yep. Now, that was part of his appearance on Face the Nation that he tweeted out himself. AIPAC tweeted out another part of his appearance this same morning. Here's the part that they focused on.
Permanent ceasefire.
Sorry. Here we go.
In terms of a permanent ceasefire, I don't know how you can have a permanent ceasefire with Hamas, who has said before October 7th and after October 7th that they want to destroy Israel. They want a permanent war. I don't know how you have a permanent ceasefire with an attitude like that.
So then what pressure exactly do you want exerted on Netanyahu if you're not going to call for a ceasefire? This is why we did this segment. We added this at the last second. AIPAC tweeted this out pretty much as soon as he said it. They had this up like 8 hours ago. And, we've heard Bernie say this in the past, so I thought nothing of it. Right? Same old, same old. But then when I saw Bernie tweet out his version of the interview, I'm like, God damn it, you asshole. Like, AIPAC used this interview for their PR, and now you're going to try and sweet talk us into thinking that, you're serious about putting pressure on Netanyahu? Fuck off. It's so insulting. It really is.
Well, that's the saddest thing about Bernie. All the people, not that they were right about their politics, but the people who told us Bernie was a grifter, that Bernie was full of shit, that he was playing this revolutionary, but really he was a pretty standard Washington politician and deal maker. They were right. They were right. Look at this scumbag. And now, I could say scumbag, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just watching him pull this Rick James, I think I have a little more sense than to put my feet on the couch. Yeah, I put my feet on the couch.
Right, exactly.
It's just, he says the one thing, then he says the other thing. It's just pathetic, man. It's just sad whenever you see this guy. Everyone's walked away from him. Nobody pays attention to him. Nobody even covers him. We almost didn't do this ourselves. Like when I first saw it, I was almost like, who cares?
Well, when I saw the AIPAC part, like I said, I wasn't interested. But the fact that he cherry-picked a part that he thought made him look good and tweeted that out as if he's trying to hold down the pro-Palestine sentiment in the Senate. I mean, it's awful.
Well, and this is the same MFer who sent out that email. I swear to God, that email came like he dropped out and endorsed Biden, and that email hit my inbox I think the same day or the next day.
Yeah.
We need money we need you to contribute to continue our revolution. All right, I won't say it again.
No, you could say it. You could say it. You could say motherfucker occasion. When you say it 8 times in 15 seconds, it might be
YouTube. Here I am.
Exactly.
Here I am. Come get me.
No, they won't ding us. I mean, they won't knock us for it, but they might not let us make the $4 in ad revenue that we usually make on these clips.
Yeah, it's just he's infuriating, man. He's just infuriating. He's now you look at this and you say he's always been this person, but it's a lot more obvious now.
Of course, indeed. All right, we got time for two more. Moving quickly along tonight, but
we are making good time.
Making good time. So we will do a couple more segments. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. Bernie Squad, greatest betrayal, muzzling progressive voice needed now. Excuse me. What if they were as vocal or determined as the Republican 8 that ousted McCarthy? Yeah, of course.
Shit.
Yeah,
well,
could have built the voice
say
following
that.
needed at this time. Exactly. Yep. Good point, Pete Sweet. Thanks for the $5, you see, Miller. Appreciate that very much. J.A. Savage, speaking of free speech, Elon Musk just restored Alex Jones' account on X.
Yeah,
Any thoughts? We were going to cover that tonight, but Elon and Alex Jones did, I think, a Spaces talk, which, we didn't get a chance to listen to. And so we figure rather than cover it twice, tonight and Wednesday, we'll just do it all at once. On Wednesday, my quick take, look, I'm against deplatforming. I thought that when they took Alex Jones off of all the major platforms, whenever that was, 2018, a few of us were saying this is a slippery slope. It's not about Alex Jones. It's about the principle. And boy, did that turn out true.
Yep.
Yeah. So, look, I voted in that poll. I voted yes. He should be allowed back on. But look, the fact that Elon Musk left it to the people shows he's not a principled free speech person. Like, if you are making this principled free speech decision, then you just say, we're putting him back on. It's that simple. But that's an incomplete take. That's a hot take. That's a quick one. We'll do it all on Wednesday.
This is where, even when we were speaking with, when we were speaking with Taibbi, we all agreed that it was better than it was under Dorsey.
Right.
At the same time, when we dropped our clips of Taibbi talking about Elon, that got the shit throttled out of it.
Yes.
Like, if they had not throttled it, those would have been viral. Those absolutely would have been viral, because I'm not aware of him ever having gone into depth like that about it in any other interview.
Yeah, no, the YouTube clip got like almost 60,000 plays, and on Twitter it would have spread even faster.
Right.
But yeah, something happened to those.
No,
those got the visibility filtered or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. It's free speech light over there.
Exactly. Dupe says, very strange when vaguely interpreted semantics of genocide are considered more outrageous than the actual genocide happening in Gaza. Strange times. Yes, perfectly said. That's basically what I said. That was basically my point. Thank you. And thanks for the donation. Appreciate that. FENYC, thanks for the $20. What can we do to get our country back from all these bought politicians? Students should take a break for a year until the universities decide to become learning institutions and not banking institutions. I agree with that. I do. As for the bigger question, what can we do?
Take a gap year.
That's tough. Yeah, take a gap year. Exactly. It's above my pay grade to answer that first one, even for $20. And I appreciate the $20. But what can we do? That's a big question.
Overall, we've talked about this. The post-Bernie left is really, that's what a lot of these conversations are about. It's feeling our way towards that. But I think one conclusion we've definitely come to is it's got to be more about grassroots outside institutions and less about duopoly participation.
Yes, indeed. Jeff Berg, thanks for the 149 super sticker. Appreciate that very much. All right, we got some more super chats to read. We got a Rumble rant here for $20. Thank you. Can you, Russell especially, what, I'm not here, elaborate
what
on...
I would?
What am I would? Elaborate on how you think AI will affect politics in the next 2-ish years.
Well...
The CPU is a neural net processor, a learning computer.
It's an interesting question. Some people say that it's overstated. I don't know that it's going to affect politics in the next 2 years as much as it's going to affect culture and entertainment, which is an element of politics. But the first thing that I saw when I saw AI, look, they created a fucking AI model. A modeling agency created an AI model, and it's doing very well. And they're like, hey, don't have to pay her. Don't have to give her breaks. Don't have to worry about, emotional meltdowns. We're making a fortune. So I think the first effects of AI are going to be that. You're going to see AI OnlyFans. You're going to see AI porn, of course, because that's the first thing we do with any technology, figure out how to pornify it.
Right.
But I keep saying that Hollywood is a dead business model in the face of AI, because if you look at what you can do now with creating images, and they've got beta testing going with creating video, within 5 years, 12-year-olds are going to be able to make a Pixar quality movie in their computer just by writing up a sentence. Okay, in this scene, I want the dog to run across the field, right? And some of those movies are going to be good. And you know what? A lot of them will probably be better than what comes out of Hollywood. That's the end of Hollywood. That is the end of the Hollywood business model. It may remain as like a one faction of content creation in a sea of content creation. In terms of politics, already you can't use ChatGPT to put real people's faces in. It'll already not let you do that. Believe me, it was the first thing I tried to do. Joe Biden, zombie. Yeah,
right.
It won't let you do that. So that's why I don't know how much of an effect it's really going to have on politics, because there's already so many alarms raised about this that I think all of the internet platforms, if they do try to have AI really like manipulate algorithms, they're going to crack down on that immediately. So I don't know. It might have impacts longer term, but it seems to me that there's so much fear about that from elites that they're not going to allow it. They're going to create Asimov's 5 laws of robotics to make sure that it doesn't really affect politics, at least in the immediate term.
All right, we got 2 more segments. These are fairly quick, but we'll get these 2 in. And then just a reminder, folks, our post-show Q&A is tonight, exclusively on Rumble. So if you're over there on Rumble now, stay where you are after the show. If you're here on YouTube, go to rumble.com/DoDissidents after the show, and it'll be the first item on that page. And you can hang around with us for a little after party.
Hang on. So somebody here is saying you can make a likeness AI. Wrong one. Yeah, man. Like, I've seen some of these that are like, all right. Well, I can't seem to get the right one.
It's moving too fast. It's a good problem to have.
It is. It's moving too fast. Okay. So Felicia Robinson says you can make a likeness AI. So yeah, I have seen some of these like AIs that are like celebrities. That's a little creepy. Like, you can make this your girlfriend. Imagine going home with Taylor Swift, right? On your phone. Ooh, creepy shit. But do they have to license that? Like, what do they have to do? I mean, I know when I've gone on ChatGPT and tried to put in faces, because we did that. I did a zombie article a few months ago, the zombie primaries. So I tried to do zombie versions of RFK, and it wouldn't do it. So I don't know how that works, but they definitely have some locks on certain programs where you can't do it.
All right, folks. As 2023 comes to a close, we enter the election year of 2024. Donald Trump seems poised to secure the Republican nomination, absent any unforeseen developments, which is really scary because democracy will be on the line in 2024. What democracy, you ask? Well, this kind of democracy. The State Department approves the sale of tank ammunition to Israel in a deal that bypasses Congress. See, this is the kind of democracy that is on the line in November of next year. So for those of you privileged white people who don't want to suck it up and vote for Joe Biden, understand, if we don't vote for Joe Biden, this kind of democracy is going to be endangered, and it's going to be your fault when it falls to Donald Trump. Exactly. Going around Congress, the Biden administration said Saturday that it has approved the emergency sale to Israel of nearly 14,000 rounds of tank ammunition, worth more than $106 million as Israel intensifies its military operations in the southern Gaza Strip. As Israel intensifies its war crimes in the area that it told civilians to flee. That's how that should have been written. As Israel bombs the hell out of the very place where it instructed civilians to take refuge.
Yes.
The move comes as President Joe Biden's request for a nearly $106 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and other... I can't even read the $106 billion for Ukraine without laughing now. It's like a punchline at this point. And other national security is languishing in Congress, caught up in a debate over U.S. immigration policy and border security. Some Democratic lawmakers have spoken of making the proposed $14.3 billion in American assistance to its Mideast ally contingent on concrete steps by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to reduce civilian casualties in Gaza during the war with Hamas. The State Department said it had notified Congress of the sale late Friday after Secretary of State Antony Blinken determined an emergency exists that requires the immediate sale of the munitions in the U.S. national security interest. That means the purchase will bypass the congressional review requirements for foreign military sales. Bypass the congressional review requirement for foreign military sales. Such determinations are rare, but not unprecedented, when administrations see an urgent need for weapons to be delivered without waiting for lawmakers' approval. So, hold on a second. We were telling Netanyahu a week and a half ago, hey, we need a humanitarian pause. We need to stop the violence for a while so aid can get in. And now we're like, okay, we need to get these weapons out the door. We can't wait. We have no time. What?
Are you
what
telling
sense does
me
that make?
Are you telling me that the Muslim world doesn't hate us for our freedom?
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what it sounds like. That's the answer.
Huh.
It was confusing me for a little while. Because if we call for a 4-day pause, then why are we in such a rush now? What, we have to make up for the lack of dead bodies in the streets from the pause?
Those bodies aren't going to kill themselves.
Exactly. The United States is committed to the security of Israel, and it is vital to U.S. national interest to assist Israel to develop and maintain a strong and ready self-defense capability. This proposed sale is consistent with those objectives, the department said in a statement. Israel will use the enhanced capability as a deterrent to regional threats and strengthen its homeland defense. The sale is worth $106.5 million and includes 13,981 120-millimeter high-explosive anti-tank multi-purpose, or MM, whatever the fuck that means, with tracer tank cartridges as well as a U.S. support. I think that's what it means, yeah. Engineering and logistics. The material will come from Army inventory. Bypassing Congress with emergency determinations for arms sales is an unusual step that has in the past met resistance from lawmakers who normally have a period of time to weigh on proposed weapons transfers and in some cases block them. Man, this sounds like the kind of thing that if Donald Trump did, there'd be a lot of hand-wringing about it. Although, wait a minute, no, they won't. This is the kind of stuff. No, because, right, if he did it for Israel, it wouldn't be. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? But remember, nonetheless, democracy on the ballot, November 2024. Make sure you're registered to go vote and save
they'd be up there saying, today Donald Trump became the president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? As long as it's in service to the war machine, you can do no wrong.
Exactly. All right, we got one more that we're going to do. Well, let's take some super chats first. Tusker, thanks for the $5. Maybe Bernie Sanders can set up a unity task force between Israel and Biden so they can release policy recommendations for Palestinians. Yeah, that's what we need, a task force. Good idea. I didn't think of that. Why didn't I think of that?
Absolutely.
Sharp Derp, thanks for the $5. Appreciate that. Not bloody likely. I like that name. I'm finding it increasingly difficult to keep pretending our world isn't going to complete shit. Love you guys. Well, love you too. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the donation.
Apparently you haven't seen the new season of Fargo because it is a return to form.
There you go. Yeah.
So something's going well.
There we go. Ernest Dowson for $10 on Rumble. Cease aid to Israel and fire Biden. Yeah, that's a good one. Like that one. That could be a nice bumper sticker. Penny Arcos, thanks for the $2. Fossil fuels versus lithium cobalt mining. EV. Fire. Thank you, Black Freud, for the $1.99. Note
Black
to Bernie,
Freud.
I want my money back. Yes, indeed. A lot of us feel the exact same way. Indeed. Cool shirt, Russell, says B. Thanks for the show, y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's from India. Russell got that one in India.
I bought this in Goa. I think.
Beautiful. Sirloin of beef. That's another good man. You guys got some good street names in there tonight. Keep up the good working too, Maiden. Perfect. Thank you, Sirloin of Beef. Appreciate that. And we have hit 666 in the Rumble chat. Look at that.
Damn.
A triple 6666. We'll call
now
this
we know the world is ending.
Yes, we'll call that the Triple Crown. When we hit 666 in Rumble, 666 likes, and 666 in YouTube. Beautiful. What a night. Jeff Berg.
We're gonna have to find a special 666 key for that. Like we'll find a different section of the song.
Exactly, yeah. Thanks for the $1.99. Appreciate that. All right, folks, final segment of the evening. We do have some more super chats to read. Just as a reminder, post-show Q&A after party over on Rumble. Patrons and paid Substack subscribers and paid local members will have call-in access to that. Everybody else is welcome to submit written questions in the chat. Rumble rants will have priority since it's easier to spot them out of the chat queue. But if you want to post @DoDissidents in front of your chat, if you have a question for us in the post-show Q&A, that's coming up in just a few minutes. But we do have one more quick segment that we're going to do. This was breaking today. This was teased out yesterday in a sort of video trailer of sorts from Tucker Carlson, but today it is made official. Ex-Fox News host Tucker Carlson is launching his own streaming service, will charge $72 per year to founding members. Tucker Carlson is asking fans to fork over $72 for a charter one-year subscription to his new streaming video service, which his site says is days away from launching. Carlson officially announced the direct-to-consumer service at tuckercarlson.com in a post Saturday on X, formerly Twitter. After he was fired in April 2023 from Fox News Channel, where he had been a fixture for more than a decade, Carlson has been producing right-wing talk show distributed on Elon Musk's X. A message on Carlson's site promises founding members access to hours of exclusive members-only content hosted by Tucker Carlson, a bonus-free month added to your subscription, and the ability to purchase the limited edition merchandise. In addition, those who sign up for the limited time price of $72 per year, sounds like we're reading ad copy for him. You should sponsor this fucking show, which works out to $6 a month, will be able to tell all your friends you are among the first to join Tucker's new network, the site says. So now he's not just going to have the show on X. He will actually have his own sort of streaming service at his own website. And Russell, go ahead. What was your take on this? Because I thought it was good.
I don't like this idea because when a lot of these figures go behind a paywall, they lose their cultural impact. They lose a lot of their audience because most people are not going to follow them behind a paywall. When was the last time you heard about what Matt Walsh said about anything? Because once YouTube cut him off, he's behind the Daily Wire paywall, right? Whether you like him or don't like him, that's not what it's about. I'm just saying, like, he was very present. There were always these stories about crazy shit that Matt Walsh said this week, right? When was the last time you saw the media cover it? Because nobody sees the stories he does anymore. It's behind the paywall of Daily Wire. And Tucker is, in my estimation, he's a very important anti-establishment voice to have out there, particularly in matters of war. So to have him disappear behind a paywall, I really wish he wasn't doing this. I really liked having him on X. It's very easy to access. It's free to everybody. Those clips always made their way onto YouTube as well. So he was really out there, and I'm afraid he's going to kind of disappear once he does this.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, I wrote an article, I think the day he was fired, maybe the day after he was fired, saying how this was really cable news really just shooting itself in the foot, because he was the last real zeitgeist news opinion personality anchor. I mean, he was water cooler talk. When's the last relevant thing you heard on Fox News since he left?
They don't even talk about it.
Nobody even gives a shit about Fox News anymore.
Sure.
Exactly. And he was a real zeitgeist figure in the way that Joe Rogan, to a certain extent, has been a zeitgeist figure. Less so now, but Tucker really, has his finger on the pulse. Right. And that made his stuff very sharp and very relevant. Not all of it. He had a couple duds that he put up, and so does everybody, right?
Right.
But putting this stuff behind a paywall on his own website, it's going to be less zeitgeist. It's not going to be the kind of water cooler talk that it is now, or like it was when he was on Fox News. Now, hopefully he doesn't paywall everything, right? Hopefully he works it like, a lot of people work their Substack. There's free stuff and then there's paywalled stuff. So hopefully there's stuff that gets out there that people can still chew on and talk about. And hopefully he's not a prick about copyright. He lets YouTubers comment on the stuff, because that's some of these creators are real bastards about that. Charlemagne, we were going to do a Charlemagne segment.
Charlemagne the little bitch, as we're going to start calling him.
Yeah, Charlemagne, we were going to do a segment on his commentary this evening, but we couldn't because we ran it through YouTube just to check if it would flag it. And sure enough, when we ran it, the test, it said, no, nobody will be able to watch this if you use this.
Yeah, I don't understand why they do that. Like, don't you want people to cover
you? You want people to talk about you? Don't you want the promotion?
Publicity.
It's free fucking publicity, of course. And now, to his credit, this was Charlemagne filling in for the Daily Show, so it was Comedy Central, not him. But the Breakfast Club, same thing. They'll take your shit down if you show their stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no. It's we got clipped. I mean, the clip was about Jimmy, but it was from when Jimmy was on our show. One of these fucking incels who just fucking clips shit online and comments on it on X, clipped Jimmy on our show, and the focus was Jimmy. But for me, I was like, thanks, man. Thanks for the free publicity. That's great.
Yeah.
Go attack us all day, man. I mean, like I said, it was about Jimmy, but I don't mind that. I don't mind that. That's great for the show. Go ahead, attack us all day.
Yeah, exactly. And so, hopefully there will be some clips that are made available to the general public, because I'm certainly not forking over $72 a year to hear Tucker Carlson talk about stuff that we're not going to be allowed to comment on. If it's payroll protected and we're not going to be able to feature it on this show, then why the hell not? We have a hard enough time keeping up with shit that we can talk about. We're going to pay to watch shit that we can, So that's one side of it. The other side of it is like, look, if Tucker really wanted to boost anti-establishment, renegade indie content, if he moved to Rumble, that would be a game changer for Rumble. Rumble would now have the zeitgeist guy on their platform.
Yes.
And he could make money on Rumble because he would get enough viewers what would really pay well for him. So why not fucking do that? This way it's free to everybody, and you talk about a game changer in the indie media business. A guy like that, the zeitgeist news guy of our time, starting a Rumble channel, that would instantly, Rumble's market share would double overnight. No question about it. Probably triple.
Yeah. And Tucker, what the fuck you need the money for, man? You're the Swanson guy.
Exactly.
You're the Swanson guy, man. You've been making money off people's heart attacks since you popped out of your mama.
Yeah. Exactly.
What
and
do
the speaking fees,
what do you need to handle it like that for?
Every one of these speeches that he does that we feature on the show, because most of them are pretty good. Where you think he does those for free? You get a couple $100,000 a pop if you're Tucker Carlson to do those speeches.
Right.
So come on, what do you need about $72 fucking for?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Let's take a couple super chats. Kuznetsky Bassane, thank you for the $4.99. Remember Guernica. Remember Dresden. Thank you very much. And think before you type. Says the United States is complicit in this genocide. No question about that, my friend. No question about that. Alrighty, folks. That is our program for the evening. But we are not done. We are far from done. You can go to Rumble. Yep, that's right. You can go to rumble.com/do dissidents right now and join us for the Q&A after party. That's rumble.com/do dissidents. We will take a 5-minute intermission while we close the stream down on YouTube, and we will be seeing you guys all on Rumble in a few minutes. You can, if you would like to call into the show, subscribe at Substack, Locals, or Patreon. So the link's right here, patreon.com/do dissidents, dodissidents.substack.com, and dodissidents.locals.com. If you're over there on Rumble right now, hit that join button right under the screen. It gets you call-in access to the Q&A. Also gets you access to tomorrow's supporter-exclusive live stream. So we are live at 2 p.m. tomorrow for an uncensored supporter-exclusive live stream. That is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, head to rumble.com/DoDissidents if you want to hang out with us a little more tonight. If you don't, if you've had enough of us for tonight, we'll see you tomorrow afternoon if you're a patron, a Locals member, or Substack member. And if not, we will see you back here on the main channel Wednesday night, December 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until whenever we see you again, thank you very much for tonight. Be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.